Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osaberg501 and today I want to go over what I think could be one of the next big MMORPGs. Now before we get into the video, only 6% of people that watch my videos are subscribed to my channel. So make sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with all of my videos. And the game I am talking about is Lost Ark, which is an MMOARPG. And if you've played anything like Diablo, Path of Exile, or Torchlight, you'll be familiar with this style of combat, the top-down view, the hack and slash style combat, but in Lost Ark, this is mixed in with a lot of the content and gameplay elements that you would expect in an MMO, up to 16-player raids, ranked arenas, open world zones, where you can see tons of other players running around, and more. Now, if you've not heard of Lost Ark, that is not all that surprising, because even though it's been released in Korea for 3 years, later got released in Russia and other regions, it has yet to have been released in the West and been a very anticipated release for these regions. But it has recently been announced that Lost Ark is going to be released in the West, in the NA, the EU, and other regions in fall of 2021, meaning that the most popular Korean MMO will now finally be coming to the West. And Lost Ark is actually the most popular MMO in Korea, and it usually sits around the 6th most played PC game in Korea. So just off that alone, it has a decent chance to be a very popular game in the West. Now, we also have some information that shows that this game is going to be very successful in the West as well, because there was recently a week-long alpha test that you could get in from either getting an invite from signing up on their website or buying one of the Founders Pack. And through just this week-long alpha, we actually get some good indicators that the game is going to be successful. So first off, if you go on SteamDB and check Lost Ark, you can actually see the amount of players that it got to during this alpha test, and the game hit a peak of right under 16,000 concurrent players, which is actually pretty big, especially for a game that's an alpha where the progress is not going to be transferred over, and where most people paid for Founders Pack in a free-to-play game and then played the alpha test. So 16,000 is definitely a good amount of people. And past just looking at the players, people were also able to put up reviews on Steam even though the alpha had an NDA. Not exactly certain how that works, but if you go on Steam and look at the reviews for Lost Ark, there's currently 1,090 reviews on the game, with 97 being positive, which is absolutely massive for Steam. It's actually pretty rare that games get this high of a positive rating, and this is only from an alpha, so it could possibly be more buggy, there could be performance or server issues, and many other things that could be fixed by the time the game is fully released. So that again is another very good sign. Now, I did also play the alpha, but I'm not going to be able to talk about my experiences with it because, like I said, there is an NDA, and I guess the Steam reviews are an exception. Maybe it's something that Steam requires be allowed even if there's an NDA for the testing. But like I've said, the game's been out for 3 years in Korea, I think 2 years in Russia, and many other regions. So even though I can't talk about my specific experiences, I can still talk about information about the game because it's been released for so long in other regions. So looking at other videos, looking at content creators, looking at forum posts, and just people in general talking about the game, it seems to be right along the lines of the reviews put on Steam, that the game has an incredibly well-reviewed combat system, which is probably the most important things for hack and slash top-down RPGs like this. It runs extremely well, it has really good graphics, which you can see from any gameplay you go look up on YouTube or officially released screenshots. And then it seems like the game within the last year have done some pretty big updates that revamp the endgame, which is what has made this game into such a popular and well-liked game overall. And Lost Ark has an absolute ton of content, a lot of it being in the endgame, that will either be in the game on release for the Western version or added sometime after because it's already released in other regions. And I do expect there to be some delay between content in other regions and the Western release, like is the case case with a lot of games that come to other regions first, then come to the West. And some of this content includes dungeons that act more as kind of a horde mode, which are called chaos dungeons. There's a bunch of different versions of those with different difficulties. Pretty much everything in Lost Ark seems to have higher difficulties that you can go through once you hit certain gear scores or increase the power of your gear. So they have these chaos dungeons that are kind of like a horde mode. They have a climbable tower mode where every new level you get to, you get additional rewards. They have more classic style dungeons that you can also go in with up to 4 people, where you go through and fight different bosses and go through other hordes of enemies. They have bigger dungeons that are up to 8 players. They have a bunch of different versions of raids. Say there's raids with just 1 boss. There's raids with 8 or 16 people. There are some more solo style raid bosses. There are kind of boss rush style modes where you just fight bosses back to back to back and see how many you can kill. And that's just some of the end game modes. There are much more than I mentioned right there. And then there are also a bunch of other stuff you can do. You have all of these zones you go through while leveling up and doing the main story. You can go back to and do side quests, collect different collectibles through all the zones, do world bosses or field bosses. There's dozens and dozens of events constantly going on throughout the whole world of Lost Ark. And then there is even sea exploration, where you get your own ships that you can put different NPCs on to give the ships different stats. So you can go explore different islands, explore the ocean, find treasure in the ocean, down to there even being a player housing system where you essentially get your own island, where you can build different buildings to give you buffs, upgrade those buildings. You can invite NPCs to stay at your island that you have built up reputation or rapport with throughout the campaign or throughout the rest of the game. You can get different skins for those buildings and much more. So that's just kind of an overview I want to do going over Lost Ark. I 100% will be doing a ton more videos on this game leading up to its release, and then doing videos on everything I can think of once a game is actually released. And I recommend checking it out if you're a fan of MMORPGs in general, hack and slash RPG games similar to Diablo, or just RPGs in general. So subscribe if you want to see more Lost Ark or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about Lost Ark, and thanks for watching.